Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning, good night, and good whatever else is out there. My name is Ollie. I'm joined by Alan, and welcome to War in the Webway.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us again for our ramblings. This is going to be very rambling with this
I,
episode. It's going to be
we should
it's going to
rename this just
yeah.
to "We Ramble a Bit for an Hour and People Listen," because I think that's probably
Uh,
true. Like, if you had to tagline us, that's probably what it is. We ramble for a bit and people listen. But what are we talking about today? What are we rambling about today?
so we are basically going to be looking at the big question of the forthcoming data slate.
Yes,
Am I right in thinking it's January?
it should be January. Yeah. So at the time of recording,
Yeah.
it's December 22nd of 2023. I believe a data slate comes either just after the LVO or just before the LVO, but it's mid-January.
I'd be amazed if they released it before.
I'm sure somebody was
Um,
saying that there's going to be something beforehand, and there's like 7 days, but it's whether or not it's in play for the LVO. Anyway, I'm sure somebody will comment. They'll listen to that bit and be like, "These guys don't know shit," and comment already. So please do if you know what we're talking about. But the Custodes data slate, or the data slate for the game that will affect Custodes, it's kind of an exciting time, and kind of what this is how we're envisaging this is it's a wish list. It's a what do we want to see from the data slate for Custodes to go back to not necessarily their ridiculous strengths, but what is it lacking? What's the game lacking? What's the army lacking? And what can the data slate sort of solve? So I don't know if you've got any initial thoughts where you want to start.
yeah, I figured. Well, there's kind of multiple areas. I think it's probably quite keen to say that before we do start that we don't really want to focus on data sheets as such because we think that based on recent data slates in the past, they're not going to really change data sheets
Yeah,
for individual units. That's going to come in the Codex.
yeah,
Um,
that's a fair
so
point. I think so. For those of you that have never experienced this before, maybe you're new to competitive, maybe you've been under a rock or something. The data slate kind of forms into two parts. One part is a points reduction and increase for certain units, and another part is like a FAQ rules clarification. Sometimes people get nerfed in this. Sometimes devastating wounds gets changed. Like it's a general rules update. Rarely, if ever, do they go through and say this unit's got an additional toughness, this unit's got an additional OC. They don't change weapon loadouts. That's not really what we see in a data slate. We see more general terms in terms of the game and points.
yeah, they try and nerf units with generic. So, say for example, the only reason that dev wounds went to no armor save and no invuln save,
But it
in my
doesn't roll
opinion,
over.
was Eldar.
Yes.
Yeah, Eldar and the Wraith Knight
Yeah.
predominantly. So they use that as like a massive brush to kind of go across the whole game. But in terms of what it was actually targeting to change, was pretty much just one or two units, predominantly with Eldari.
Games Workshop being heavy-handed
Um,
across lots of things to try and solve one thing. No, Alan. Who do you think you are?
Well,
Come
we
on.
got caned with that, but that's a really good place to start, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start there.
Yeah.
The first thing that we as a faction need, and I've got a few ideas around this. Just thinking about it on the train on the way into work today. Um, we need that protection from dev wounds
100%.
4 up. We need
100%.
that back. Or they need to change that again and make it so that it only ignores armor saves, so it doesn't ignore invul saves.
No, so
Um,
I think for the rest of the game, and the hard part about all this, and we can sit there and talk about it in isolation, and there's however many factions with whatever, and the problem. I want to start somewhere different, and I want to start with the problem with the data slate in general. So what Games Workshop try and do is they try and keep win rates between it's like 53 and 48%, right? It's something like that. And so they look at an army's win rate overall, and they go, this army needs a nerf, this army needs a buff. And I think Custodes is at like it's never in the red on the Warhammer meta weekly or bi-weekly update, whenever it is. It feels like Games Workshop have done what they wanted to Custodes, and their win rates seem to see where that is. and they don't really look at it and say, what can Custodes not beat? What can it beat? It doesn't go into that sort of detail. It's much more, are they overrepresented in the meta? No. Well, that's going to be a more gentle nerf buff. Are they underrepresented? Are they winning too much? Yes, therefore more extreme. And I think one of the problems for me with the data slate that's going to come out is that I think Custodes are probably where GW want them to be at the moment. And so you won't see massive dramatic movements. And so giving back a protection to dev wounds, I'd love to see it. I don't know if I will in this edition. Also in this upcoming.
I think it's 45 to 55, to be honest. That's the range they want to put it in, that 10%. If you compare that with like the 40k stats that come out on like Reddit or something.
You mean actual real stats based on stuff that isn't just cherry picked?
It's based on tournaments, yeah. We're not well below, but we're below 45%. But the Games Workshop one is, obviously they're going to massage it a bit, aren't they? I think they take into account a lot of RTTs. Local RTTs are in rate is in some instances inflated in certain metas, but I think they do need to do something, because what you're seeing is quite a varied. I'm looking at it from kind of like, if you look at the top 20 in every tournament, GT or up, right? If you look at the top 20, we're not really having any form of presence, and that's the problem, because we may be having a 40% win rate, 45% win rate. If you look at our win rate into the top tier factions, I reckon we'll be right down the bottom. I reckon we'll be really low. I think the only army that's in a worse place than us in terms of win rate will be Drukhari. Now, do I think that that's where the actual faction is in terms of win rate? No, I think we should be higher. I just think that I think I don't think we're that imbalanced negatively. I don't think we've been nerfed into the ground. I just think that we haven't really been given the tools to survive against the top armies, and I think that's the problem, because there's so many people running these top armies, and so that's what they're going to need to change.
I'm just looking at it, right, just so we get our facts straight. 23rd of November was the last time the Meta Watch came out, from what I can see, and they had Custodes at 45%. Now StatCheck have them at 42% as a win rate.
Yeah,
which is probably where we think it is at the moment.
Okay, so going back onto what actually needs to change, I think they will do something around the dev wounds.
For just Custodes, or for dev wounds in general? Because I think a lot of people are happy that dev wounds don't spill. Dev wounds are not mortals. For the majority of the game, it just disproportionately punishes Custodes who lost one of their main rules, right? They lost their shield host rule.
In my opinion, I think they will only fix it for Custodes.
Okay.
However, for the wider game, I think dev wounds needs toning down still. And I think that if they put it so it only ignores armor saves, then I think that's okay. I mean, I really don't think that. There's nothing to stop you giving dev wounds and then having full rerolls to wound on multiple factions.
It's true.
With lots of shots,
it's true.
Twin linked with dev wounds. So what you tend to find is that people are speccing heavily for it, and it's having a large impact on a lot of different types of actions and games. And I don't think, or I can't see them pointing. I don't look at a unit and think, oh, they're been pointed to take into account dev wounds. You cannot see that. So anywhere really. So I think they should do something, but I don't think they will.
What armies at the moment are completely relying on dev wounds, apart from Eldari, because Eldari's bollocks, and we'll talk about that some other time, because they have multiple ways to get dev wounds. But I don't like. what other armies are completely reliant on dev wounds to do their damage? Yes, the Chaos Lord does dev wounds. Yes, the Forge Fiend still does dev wounds. But like, I don't know. I don't think anything at that top level just does an inordinate amount of dev wounds. I just think that dev wounds really punishes Custodes.
I mean, okay, so the top two factions at the moment, in my opinion, Eldar and CSM. Eldar's still heavily reliant on dev wounds, and you say that Chaos Lord and the and the Forge Fiends, those are two very much staple units within the Chaos Space Marine army, right?
Yep.
So
yeah.
those two factions, which are on top, have access to severe amounts of dev wounds that they can put in their list, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Sure, but then Votan are very strong and they got movement. World Eaters are very strong and they've got movement. I know we've sort of touched on it before about how World Eaters into Custodes isn't necessarily the matchup people might think, but those aren't relying on dev wounds. It's a maneuverability thing, and I think that I don't know. I think a 4+ Feel No Pain against dev wounds and mortals is very, very strong. I think a 5+ I think is a fair version of what that looks like. 4+ Feel No Pain against mortals, 5+ Feel No Pain against dev wounds. Then you'd have to really change dev wounds. You're just saying that dev wounds are still protected for. I don't know.
Would you consider like a 6 of Feel No Pain all the time? Custodes.
On everything. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. The reason I can't see that is that GW's policies to try and make the game faster, and that Feel No Pains apparently slowed down the game too much, which is why initially in the indexes they all got killed off. It's why resurrection protocols for Necrons have changed. It's like they wanted to speed the game up, and I think if you're slow rolling to get 6+ Feel No Pains on 3 wound models, I think that's a place that GW don't necessarily want the game to be. Now to counter that, if you're running a Custodes list and you've got 30 bodies at maximum, 20 bodies normally, then maybe it's more reasonable. But I can't see that being a solution.
I can't see it either. It's just a thought I had.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not bad at all.
Yeah. So I mean, to kind of round out the dev wounds thing, do you think they will do anything or not then?
I don't think they will. I think they should, but I don't think they will. I don't think that's what the powers that be at GW will go. That's the Custodes issue. I don't think that switched on. I hope I'm wrong, but they very intentionally didn't want dev wounds and mortal wounds to be the same thing in the last data slate. And I don't think they're going to be like, oh yeah, we got that one wrong. Dev wounds and mortal wounds are the same thing, but they don't spill. But you still treat them like mortal wounds. So the mortal wounds that don't spill, it feels just like another like line in the sand. Unless it just says that Custodes get a 4+ Feel No Pain against mortal wounds and dev wounds.
Yeah. Well, I really hope they do give it.
So do I.
Because I think it's necessary. But I think both of us aren't really holding out much hope. I think they should.
I think they should.
I think it's what the faction needs. But moving on from dev wounds, what do you think about the unit size change? Those who don't know, in the previous, before the last data slate, used to be able to have squads of 6 wardens and squads of up to
10 guard,
5 bikers or 6 bikers, and then squads of up to 10 guard.
Yep.
Now that's a lot lower.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
So I'm not big on the lore. I'm not somebody who cares that much about the lore. I am very aware that Custodes don't play as they should do in the lore. You know, every Custodes should be a Space Marine captain, and so they are a lone unit or a very MSU type unit if you're playing a lore accurate Custodes. Now that doesn't translate onto the tabletop, but I did not like 10 bricks of Custodes running around. I just thought that they were, for me, quite boring to play against. Just this absolute hammer sitting there going, yep, you're not going to be able to kill me. I got these shrugs. I can do this. I can do that. and tanking a lot of stuff. So I was quite happy with the unit size reduction. You could still have the same bodies on the field because the points weren't increased to nerf them, but they were just smaller units, and I didn't mind that. Now, it's definitely ruined their competitiveness. It's 100% ruined their competitiveness. I think giving them that back is the wrong message. 6 Wardens isn't too bad, but 10 guard just sucked so much. If you had 10 guard, 2 by 10 guard with 2 shield captains, and you were just popping -1 damage, -1 damage, and you had 3 shields in each, or 4 shields in each, that's so many wounds you got to get through these people. And then spend 1 CP, you bring back a model. Like, it's just such an oppressive way of playing, like a slow foot slogging list. Yeah, I understand why they did it. I don't hate how they did it. I know it hurt our chances of playing the game. What about you? Because you were running 10s, weren't you?
I was running 1 squad of 10.
Yeah.
I never went to 6 Wardens. So I always put 5 Wardens. But I genuinely feel that it's like I said to you at the time, right? People were specking for Eldar and GSC.
Yeah.
Because they were like by far boogeymen. And a lot of the time those were toughness 3, 1 wound guys.
Yep.
So I think if you were specking into Custodes, and then you were specking into being kind of like not just into Custodes, but if you were specking to kill like elite infantry or you know tough bodies, a 10-man squad shouldn't be too much to get through. I think a 10-man squad against some of the factions now where they're move blocking. You know, how many times have I looked at an Art of War stream game and seen a squad of 10 guys spread across half the battlefield because they're move blocking.
Yeah.
So it's you can get around 10-man squads. I think it's a big issue with Blast. Forge Fiends can nuke them, especially if they don't fix the dev wounds. So I don't think they're as oppressive as everyone thought they were. I don't think they were that much of a problem. And you know, points wise, yes, you put them -1 damage. You'd put your defensive strats on them, but it's a big point sink. Where we were 45 points a model, now we're up to 50 points a model. That's an extra 50 points for that unit. And then the shield captain went up by 20, so you're looking at an extra 70 points for a 10-man squad. It would be if it was available now. I genuinely think that they made a mistake when they changed the squad size. I wouldn't have done it. I think that they can reverse that, or at least do something around that. In my opinion, and not have us leapfrog back to the very top and be an issue. That's the way how I look at it. I think points now, the points are if you put 2 blocks of 10 in, that's an extra 100 points. And they're far less defensive. The strats, you can't get the fight first strat on both. So I don't think it's that much of an issue.
Got it. Interesting. So yeah, I think. Okay, so is that kind of like a wish list that you would like to see from this Dataslate? You'd like them to either bring back dev protection or change the squad size, or would you like to see both? If you were like writing your Christmas list, dear Santa, my name's Alan, I've been very good this year, I'd like them to change Custodes for blah. Like, how are you ranking that? Is it either or? Is it both? Is there one that you'd like to see before the other?
If I'm being honest, I would like them to reverse the entire data slate for Custodes. apart from the stratagem.
Okay.
I would, with the battle tactic where you can spam fight first, I would remove our fight first completely from the game.
Fight first is such a dick.
I would change it into one of 2 things, which is you can interrupt on an objective for 1 CP.
Yep.
Or you can heroically intervene if your opponent's on an objective without them having to have charged.
Yeah, that's strong.
Um,
I like that.
and yeah, it stops 2 guardsmen towing onto an objective and taking it from, if you've only got 1 Custodes on there.
Yeah.
So if I think that's a really good option. It's slap it on 2 CP. Don't make it a battle tactic, or I don't think heroic intervention is a battle tactic. To be honest,
it's not.
No, so I think they should just remove that. If they remove that from the game, none of the other changes would have needed to have happened.
Yeah. So I still don't understand why 9th edition changed fight first to be defender's pick, and then fight first kicked in, and Custodes with 10 man was just horrible. You'd see it and you'd be like, well, I've got a combat army and I can't charge you because you're just going to kill it. Oh yeah, but you could do this over here. No. If you were running Trajan, you had to fight first. Like, there were so many layers to this of it just hurt. Yeah, so I don't like that in 10th, how fight first, or how the order prioritization changed, and it really affected Custodes. And I think you're right. I think that's an easy thing to change, and then everyone is happy with, and it not be too oppressive. Do you think? Yeah. And I kind of say this with a hook, so apologies. But do you think what they're going to do is just try and change the points? Bring bikes down by 10 points because nobody's using bikes. Bring down certain other units, maybe Venatari fall by 15 points, and kind of not really get to the root. Like, if you're being realistic, is that how you think this data slate is going to play for us? Or do you think there's going to be anything like more meaningful? Not like a wish list, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think... I fear that they're only going to address points. And I think that's going to be a bit of an issue.
I think so.
For us.
I think, depending on what points they adjust, you look at an extra guard man, like an extra, like one model, maybe if you're lucky 2, you have to be very specific which 2 you might be able to get. But it's not going to change how the Custodes armies plays. If you can save 40 or 60 points across the unit, that's a unit of sisters. Like, I can't see there being wide scale changes to fix the underlying problem.
I mean, you just got to look at last data slate to see how wide they missed the mark.
Yes.
With Eldar.
Yeah.
They did points changes. They did a fundamental rules change in terms of the dev wounds going to just ignore, not mortals.
Yeah.
They didn't address Eldar in any other way, apart from the stratagem only going on infantry.
Yeah, Phantasm.
Phantasm, yeah. But people were doing it on their Wraith Knights, but when wounds didn't spill, Wraith Knights disappeared. So people were doing it, they still had the Wraith Guard, and people were just using up Wraith Guard spamming it into an army that does not have a problem with CP because of the Autarch or whatever.
Yeah.
So they missed it so massively, but they pinpointed targets on us. I'm worried that they're going to miss the issue with us, because if they tweak us by what they think might work, 5% here, 5% there, or maybe 10% at the max, you're not going to be able to get another squad in, because you're not going to save more than 200 points. It's exactly like you said. You may be able to get a couple of squads of sisters, or if you're lucky, I say lucky, but you may be able to get one of the dreads in at 165 or 175 or something. But it's not going to fundamentally alter your armies, because we're quite reliant on only a couple of data sheets.
Yeah, so
it's not going to have much of an impact.
You kind of hit, and we haven't really done this, but we should do it soon, which is fundamentally the way that Custodes play. I think there's one way of playing them, which is almost not a horde-based infantry list, but it's that sort of mentality, right? It's bodies, it's numbers that hold objectives and kind of stand up to it. And you look at the rest of the index, and we'll keep going through the index list because there's some interesting plays and interesting units and stuff. But I don't think the data slate, the last one, really went, nope, this is the way you play Custodes. There's one way to do it, it's this way. And I can't see the new data slate changing the way that people build lists, changing the way that people will be playing Custodes. I still think bikes will be crap because fly sucks. I still think a Caladius that can't go over a building and has to measure up and down because, again, fly sucks. I can't see 5-inch moving Terminators. I can't see... Like, I'm literally looking at my shelves now. Palace are terrible again. So a lot of the Forge Rod stuff is gone. Everything gets covered, so a lot of the shooting sucks. Like, I can't see there being enough of a change where there could be multiple ways to play a Custodes list. And in 9th, we had very different ways that we played Custodes, and that's what made it interesting. But 10th feels like this is the way that you play them, with the unit sizes, with whatever, and just manipulating points, saving 8% on your army, giving you back 150 points, or whatever 8% is. I think that's about 50 points, or 150 points. Like, great, I get a Dreadnought. So, who cares? Great, I get 2 more Alaris. Great, who cares? Like, it's not going to change enough for the people to actually start winning with this army, or start winning enough to move the dial. I actually think that just trying to do points cuts might see them go from 45 or 42%, depending on which stats you use, to 47%, and Games Workshop go, cool, they're right where we want them to be. But it doesn't change the army into, as we said at the start, the top like lists, the top armies, the top tables. Hey, yeah, check that out. 8% saving on 2,000 points is 160. That's how good my mental maths is.
I mean, I genuinely feel that it's really awkward because it's like what you said, right? In terms of what they've changed, how they can edit it so that it can open up more for us. The only way they're going to be able to do that is in the Codex.
Okay, that's a nice transition. Do you want to get into Codex?
Yeah. Let's get into Codex. I mean, let's wrap up Dataslate first. I think both of us are quite at the point where we're anything we can get with the Dataslate is going to be good. Anything we can get is going to be good. However,
yeah.
We think it's only going to be points. What we would like is a complete rollback on the vast majority of it. I don't think they're going to pull something out of thin air and give it to us. You've got to remember our Codex is coming in spring. I've heard April bandied about a bit. They're not going to give us sweeping changes 3 months before Codex.
No.
So I think we're not going to change much, especially if they're saying we're 45%.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a nice little summary. The balanced Dataslate, people can wish list as much as they want. I think the reality is we are just below where GW want us to be, and what's happened before is a points change. And what points are you changing? If you put 5 points less on an Alaris, are you now taking more Alaris? If a custodian squad of 4 goes from 200 points down to 190, does that change how you do that? Probably not. But they'll be sitting there being like, well, that's 5% here and 8% or 10% here. And it might add up. And maybe you get an extra character in. But fundamentally, the way that the Codex is balanced does not play into the top armies. Now, if you play the army in a certain way, I still think you have play and games, and I think there's enough there. But for the majority of people, for me included, I think that, yeah, the way they want you to play the game will not be addressed by a Dataslate in January, period. And it makes me sad that.
Yeah. But looking slightly further ahead is now, I don't think we should go into a deep dive into what we think is coming in the Codex.
No.
Because we would be here literally till Christmas.
Our wish list is
like 3 days away or something. Oh, it's just ridiculous. But kind of let's just explore some of the themes we think are coming based on A, what they've done in the past, and B, what they've done with
Space
some
Marines
codexes that have come out.
So I think with all that being, with everything you just said, I'm going to be really kind of try and keep tight on this and not be rambly, but the shield hosts will have to be distinctive, right? And if you look back at 9th, I actually really liked how the 9th shield hosts were for Custodes. You had the one that could come out of Deep Strike and get reroll charges. You had the one that could advance and charge with Solar Watch. You had the one that was a bit tankier and I was a bit more reliable with Emperor's Chosen. Like Shadowkeepers was better in combat and whatever. So it won't be a like for like. I'm not naive enough to think like that, but I do think that the shield hosts will be where Custodes players can find their flavour, and find what suits them. I think that'd be quite an exciting time.
The advance and charge came within the Warlord trait, I believe.
Solar Watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, Solar Watch, yeah. So I think what they'll do is, if they gave us an advance and charge shield host, I think it would be incredible.
Yes, but then the Blade Champion changes as a role.
Yeah, he does, but I think he also gives fallback and charge, does he?
No, that's
If I'm
Caesar
on the top
Hunter.
of my
He
head.
gives advance and charge, advance shoot and
Oh,
charge.
Caesar Hunter, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I don't know what they'll do. I generally don't know what they'll do, but I'm very excited about if they kind of follow the same theme of Dread Host, where you get extra AP when you're within a certain distance.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. I like Shadowkeepers. I loved it, rerolling all wounds against characters and -1 to someone's attack against you. I would like shield hosts to give us quite valuable buffs, or valuable tools. Yes, we would end up losing the feel no pain protection,
Which
but
is no good
as
at
it
the
currently
moment. Anyway.
stands, it's no good. In ninth, you couldn't live without it.
Yes.
Germany couldn't live without it because I remember getting, librarians from Grey Knights getting the mortal wound bombs and stuff like that. So, without it, or when we went into Catans and Catans were like spamming mortal wounds out.
Yep.
So, we can move away now, and I think there's lots of options. If I was Games Workshop, I would try and make it as varied as possible, and I think the ninth edition Codex, is a really good structure for that because there were no two shield hosts that played the same.
I completely agree with that. I think my concern, me being negative Nelly over here, if you look at like Necrons, one detachment, whatever it is, dynasty, is way better than the other 5. If you look at Space Marines, Ironstorm is still incredible compared to the other ones that they released. I would like to see 2 shield hosts that kind of compete, and people are like, oh, this could be quite interesting. Oh, have we thought about this? And I think that'd be a really nice place to start debating and talking about, based on history and based on my negative perception about rules writers that can keep it varied. I think we'll see 1 that's the obvious choice, and then 5 that don't get used, which would be it would suck. Even in 9th, Emperor's Chosen.
If you look at it,
go on, sorry.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, even in 9th, Emperor's Chosen was still the one that people went with, but Shadowkeepers had play, Dreadhost had some interesting builds, Solar Watch was doing really well towards the end of 9th. Like, there was enough there. You were playing around with the Quillen's Shield at one point, like, there was enough there, and enough places that people could talk about strengths and merits. I would like to see that again in 10th. I would like to see people at least trying to build lists that did the one shield host thing interestingly. Rather than just go, this is the only way to play it. Done.
I mean, it gave us a lot of flavour, and it gave the army. A lot of people started playing Custodes in 9th edition because of the kind of personal style you could put on the army.
Yeah, I agree.
I am a little bit concerned, and have been concerned since 10th, since the number of relics has dropped.
Yes.
Number of warlord traits has dropped, and that does concern me a little bit because it kind of doesn't allow for if for example, if you've got six relics, or I think it was 8 relics we had, 3 or 4 of them were good in specific scenarios. Now you can only take 3 enhancements. If you've got one faction with 2 good ones and one faction with 1, or one shield host with 1, then you're always going to go with the one with 2 because enhancements can really give you that boost. So I think that the issue that I've got is I really hope Games Workshop pull it out of the bag with regard to the Codex. I think we need it. I think based on what we both feel the data slate is going to be, I think the Codex is what's going to really refresh the faction.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I support that 100%.
but yeah, I mean, let's just pick a a um a data sheet and say, right, okay, what does the Codex need to do, and let's do bikes.
Yeah, it's a
So
valid one. We haven't done bikes yet.
yeah, we haven't done bikes, and bikes are, you know, quite kind of they're part of our identity.
100%.
Um,
Eighth and ninth, you wouldn't go anywhere without a bike captain. Most people were playing bikes in their list. They were an essential makeup of the custodian army, and their fast movement. They were tougher, mixed in with Alaris, mixed in with custodian guard. Back in the day, they were, I like to say, part of the identity. And a custodian biker just looks awesome. It looks great. I got, I think, 18 of them in various states of being painted. And yeah, I love bikes. I hate them in 10th.
what do you fix them?
How do you fix them? You fix fly.
They're not going to do that though.
No.
They're not going to change fly.
No, but eighth fly was too powerful. Ninth fly was strong, and then they've just completely killed fly in 10th. But fly hurts bikes so badly. The melter weapon was a reliable source of anti-vehicle. Now it's not anymore. How do you fix bikes? I don't even know. They're still T6, right? I think we did this before. They're not T7.
Yeah, they're still.
Which is
First thing you got to do is you got to fix their movement. They only move 12.
they move 12.
Then you've got they only move 12. Yeah.
Jesus.
Then you got to fix the shooting.
Yeah.
The shooting is just shocking. And it's such a shame because they. Okay, you've got to look at it, right? What did we have in ninth that we used for anti-vehicle? We had
Bikes.
2 melter bikes, and then we also Telemons, right?
And Telemons. And Palace. Palace were decent for light vehicles.
That's decent, yeah.
Um,
Rerolled failed wounds in the vehicles, yeah.
Yep.
Caladius, yes, but at the same point they started to beef Caladius points up, so no one really took them that much because they were so expensive towards the end. But they've nerfed a lot of our anti-vehicle quite heavily, so we need that fixed. And then I think what they're probably going to need is an extra attack or 2.
yeah, so is
either
it
that or an
4
extra
attacks
AP.
with Lance? 5 attacks with Lance.
I think it's 5.
It's 5.
5 attacks with Lance,
Right.
maybe 4. But they need to be. I know what they're saying about Lance. They're going to have that impact with Lance, but they need to have a few more attacks. They need to be better at shooting, and they need to be quicker.
But the problem with bikes is they don't get where they need to go to do the thing they need to do. They can't do it at range, and they're decent base sizes. Their staging isn't the easiest thing to get to. And again, you look at the points and you go, I'll take Wardens. They can go through walls. They're tougher. I'll take, if you go down that way, Alaris. Like, they got 4 wounds at T6, 5 attacks, strength 7 -2 for 2. It's just not good enough.
Yeah. Agamatus are much better than Virtus Praetors.
What's that?
The Agamatus are
the
Forge
Rod ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they're much better because what you can do is you move up. You're going to have a shield captain, so you're going to sink a lot of points into these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You move up, you shoot. After you've shot, you can move 6 inches.
Oh, nice.
And you kind of get behind out of line of sight terrain or unblocking terrain. They have, at the end of their fight phase, even if you're not in combat, you then do your 12-inch move.
Nice.
And it goes to your turn, so then you go 12 up.
Nice. That's cool.
So that's the only way to play bikes. Anyone with bikes, to be honest. So an Agamata's shooting is slight. They've got better options. They're still rubbish options, but they've got better options than the Virtus Praetors. But I think there's so many data sheets, Custodes, they need to fix, because if we're investing 180. If they don't change the points, for example,
Yep.
if we're investing 180 points in a shield captain on a Dawn Eagle jet bike,
Oh,
and then we're doing 3 bikes, which comes out at 210 points. 210, just under 400 points for a bike captain and 3 bikes.
that's insane.
That is nuts. Absolutely nuts. And toughness 6.
T6.
T6. They need to really give them teeth, or they just need to nerf the points down to 55, 50 points, 50-point bikes, but then control it by saying you can only have a certain squad size.
Yeah,
They've changed the squad size now, but they haven't changed the points.
I agree, and I don't want this to get into a bike episode, but if you make the Salvo launcher assault, then they have more flexibility. They can get to where they want to do. They can do actions. Quicksilver execution. They'll go, oh great, that's a great ability. If you move over something, you can do 2 mortal wounds per model in your unit. But you're throwing something away to potentially do some mortal wounds. I don't know how they look at this unit and go, oh great, this can actually have play. It doesn't. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
In my opinion, what I think they've done is they've written the data sheets in line with what the Codex is coming out with. So I think there'll be bikes are supposed to be in with Solar Watch because it's all about speed, it's all about hitting. And in Solar Watch there'll be an advance and charge, and there'll also be a stratagem to, if you advance, you have assault weapons. So you'll be able to advance, do your mortal wounds, shoot, and then charge.
Got it.
That's what I think they've done it, but we're pre-Codex, so we're having to kind of like pigeonhole it.
Yeah,
and it's
you're
just not working.
You're probably
I don't want to go into any more units because, like I said, we will be here for absolutely ages knowing us to.
Okay, but so that's probably a decent place to end it on. So I guess as a summarization, which was our mission at the start was, what do we want to see in the balanced data slate? And realistically, we think it's going to be a points change and it won't really make a difference. And then maybe the Codex around the corner is going to change it, but also it's going to have to try and change quite a lot of the data sheets to actually make them viable. Is that kind of where we should end this? As a bit of a downer?
Yeah. I mean, I think any change is positive, so I think that the points change is going to be good. I think if you've just got a load of vouchers for Christmas or some money to buy some models of loved ones, I would genuinely suggest, and I know it's always difficult when you've got it in your wallet, but I genuinely suggest wait until the Codex.
Yes, I agree.
I think the Codex, if you want to go competitive and buy it, unless you're going to buy everything, because then something's going to be good, right?
Which is my policy.
But yeah, I mean, I have literally every single model. But I think that's probably where we should call it.
Yep, that sounds good to me. It's a funny one. It's a funny conversation to have, especially because a couple of weeks ago we were saying our Custodes bad. No, do they need something in the data slate? Yes, and then it's like, but with such few models, everything will be a massive swing. So let's see, and we'll do another one of these when the data slate comes out and say, did we predict it right? Was more done? Was there more blah blah blah? And we'll see how it goes. But until then, well, that's everything I want to say. Anything else? Any final thoughts from you, Alan?
No, not at all. And thanks for listening. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate all the support. We've had a lot of messages from people saying thank you, and that they read it or they listen to the kind of show, and it's kind of helped them kind of gauge what they want to do with Custodes and where they want to go with it. So yeah, we're very grateful for all your support, and if you do like us, then please do subscribe and press the like button. That helps us out a lot.
I would say comment. We actually read all your comments, and then we go away and start debating it between us. Every comment that we get,
we do, don't we?
Yeah. Like for me, a like is lovely, a subscribe, perfect. Thanks so much. But I like the comments because the comments allow us to actually engage with people, and I'll try and respond to every comment we get, and I'll basically go, oh, Alan, have you seen this? And we sit there and we talk about it, and we go, yeah, are we happy with that? Yeah, and we craft it actually does challenge how we think. So if you're going to do one thing, please comment. But if you want to do all three, go for that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks, guys.